All right, so Matt, first up, the wide receiver we're going to talk about first. He's my wide receiver one. I know you talked about you have Flowers as your guy, but a guy who comes from an absolute farm system in college football out of Ohio State. We're going to talk about Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And, I mean, some of the wide receivers who, I talk about the farm system that have come out of Ohio State. I mean, I talked about last year, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, come out of it, Jameson Williams as well, I believe, also out of Ohio State. You go longer, Michael Thomas as well, and there's still some more out there, but it seems like they're wide receiver U. And even next year, Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out as well. But the guy this year that's coming out is going to be Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the first guy we talk about on the board today. And he, pretty much a lost season in 2022. Yep. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about is what we saw in 2021 with Olave, with Garrett Wilson on that offense. But an outstanding route runner, separator, to off the charts, and he's actually really intelligent compared to some of the other wide receivers that have come through there, and just continues to always do the right things. His hands, exceptional hands, ball skills, focus at the catch point. Doesn't have the top end speed,
no, and
also doesn't have the move around the formation versatility. He was a slot weapon, primarily in the slot at Ohio State. It was where they mainly used that guy within their offense, and pretty much where he's going to stick once you get into the NFL.
Yeah, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, he's got the potential to be the best out of the three wide receivers that you mentioned so far with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. He's got tremendous potential. It just, an NFL team needs to be able to unlock it and use him in the right way. As you mentioned, he's pretty much primarily a slot guy. I'm sure with his size and his ability, he could convert to an outside guy, but I think if you're an NFL team, you're drafting him to be a slot receiver. That's what you have to do. And, that's one of the questions. Where is he going to get drafted because of that? Do you want to be locked into just that slot receiver? But as you mentioned, 2022, pretty much a lost season. So we're going to 2021. We were talking about this before the show. His last 5 games of 2021, he averaged 192 receiving yards a game. That kind of explosive ability is absolutely insane. He had 321 yards in a single game in 2021. So that's the kind of guy that you're getting. You're getting a big physical receiver who, as you mentioned, doesn't have top line speed, but still can get up there and extremely athletic, great on the deep balls. He's a special player.
So some stats for it. 88% of his routes came out of the slot.
Yep.
During his time at Ohio State.
That's a high percentage.
And, they did, move him around a lot of pre-snap stuff, so it's not just like he was, solely, sit in the slot and go with it. But also, like, we talk about a slot guy. We're not talking about, a small, a Randall Cobb and there's a player like that, who is that type of slot receiver in this draft that we'll talk about later, but he's more of the Jacoby Myers, Julian Edelman-esque wide receiver, like a slot receiver where he can still make a big play if he needs to. He's not just, move the chains type of slot receiver. So we'll pull up now, Matt, some film on Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Let's go through some of the highlights in the film here. So this one, we saw some of it on Friday during the C.J. Stroud highlights that we had from 2021. But here we have, so like I said, moving around the formation, starting on the right side in the slot, put him in motion, and on this play, hand it off to him on a jet sweep, gets around the edge, great block, and just takes it way down the field. Past the 30, past the 25, close to the 20. So a big play there where, they just put him in motion, put the ball in his hands, easily translatable with a lot of offenses. Here, a bunch, trips set to the left. He's on the far inside slot. Runs a wheel route. The defense is lost.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. There are 3 guys right there. One guy in the flats, one guy going in the middle. No one on the guy, right at the numbers, streaking down the field. Easy touchdown. So he loses, a lot of coverages, and they have him in zone. He has a good, feel for the field in that way. They're just a quick, again, put the ball in his hands, pretty much a little bubble route. But, just looking through it as a skill standpoint, what do you like best out of Smith-Njigba in terms of what he's going to bring as a wide receiver?
Yeah, the main thing that I'll tell you is his ability to get off the line and create separation without the top-end speed is absurd. He's got all the skill that you need in that first 3 yards to be able to be a top-line receiver. And one thing, you were talking about that trip set earlier, how he was able to just completely confuse the defense. That's actually one of the things I was concerned about last year with Olave and Wilson. I was like, Ohio State has one of the best offensive schemes when it comes to wide receivers in college football. And I was thinking, they go into the NFL, are they going to be able to have this same kind of production without having to have the scheme that they have? Jaxon Smith-Njigba has shown that, you can do it. They don't have those three-headed monster that they had in 2021. They still have Marvin Harrison, but there is no question about it. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is that guy. And even though he didn't play that much this season, he was still able to show what they could do.
Yeah, and even without the top end speed, there's some plays on here where it's not man coverage where he's burning past a cornerback and the safety, but they put it on him in space, like in this play right here. Nice. Yeah, he can make turn a 15-yard route into a 40-yard play after the catch with his legs. But a lot of it though is manufactured touches. Getting it to him quick in the quick passing game. Whether it's a quick out. That one, a drag across the field with a bootleg, but some screens as well. Just the manufactured touches in space, getting him the ball, and then letting him make something happen after the catch. Not really the deep downfield runner and type of receiver, but a lot of teams do like this, and want to add this into their offense. I think especially the Green Bay Packers, and even the New England Patriots, who lost, a similar type of receiver in Jacoby Myers, like I talked about. They've loved that type. Julian Edelman. Yep. Those are the two comparisons I gave for them.
Yep.
Both two former Patriots players. But the Packers, they had their deep downfield guy in Christian Watson. They have, their possession guy in Romeo Doubs. Jaxon Smith-Njigba could make sense with the 15th overall pick.
I was going to say, there's a lot of teams between 10 and 20 that would love to have Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I think it's all going to depend on who's available at that spot, because, as you mentioned, the Packers, there are a few positions of need there. Even the New York Jets, they could do it. What they need. They need an offensive lineman. That's their main need probably right now. If one of those top two guys aren't available, why not go get Aaron Rodgers another weapon? The Tennessee Titans, if they don't have their quarterback there, they don't have the offensive lineman they want, why not go add another weapon for whoever's going to be the quarterback there? And you mentioned obviously the Packers and the Patriots and stuff like that. There are so many teams that could need a wide receiver. It's just all going to depend on who's available, and is this wide receiver more valuable to them than getting their second or third choice at a different position. And Jaxon Smith-Njigba is that kind of guy. He could be worth going for.